Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Russ and I drive my 2024 Subaru Forester Sport. I own this car for a little over 2 years now, and if you've been watching this channel for a while, you already know that I'm pretty honest when it comes to my ownership experience with this car. When I like something, I'll tell you. When something annoys me, I'll be the first to let you know. So you're about to hear a whole list of things that annoy me about my beloved Subaru Forester. A list I've slowly put together over the last 2 years of driving this car. As you join me on my ride today, I want you to remember one thing. Despite what I'm about to tell you, I still absolutely love my Subaru Forester, and I would have bought it all over again without any hesitation. But at the same time, it's pretty obvious that every car has its issues, and I think it's only fair to point them out. With that said, let's begin. Some of the things I'm going to discuss today actually bothered me from day one, but some of them I began to notice as the time went on. Some are tiny, some are a little more serious, and one of them still drives me absolutely crazy. Let's start with something that almost every Subaru owner complains about: the infotainment system. Yeah, it's still not great. If you want a quick summary, the screen here is too small and the system is too slow. Now, before anyone says it in the comments, yes, I know, I bought a trim level with the smallest screen. That's on me. My sport trim came with a 6.5-inch infotainment display because I skipped on the optional package 24, which would have given me a much more modern looking 8-inch display. And believe me, you'll hear me mention the optional package 24 a few more times in this video, probably more than I'd like, but honestly, the screen size isn't even my biggest complaint, it's the lag. Oh my god, it just feels so slow. You touch the screen, nothing. You touch it again, still nothing. Then half a second later, everything happens at once. 5th gen Subaru Forester like mine was made between 2019 and 2024, but when I'm using the infotainment system, it almost feels like using a smartphone from like 10-15 years ago. My old LG G2 and my old Samsung Galaxy S2 come to mind, and I get it that I can't try and judge this infotainment system by 2026 standards, so I'm trying to be as patient as possible. Eventually though, I just stopped trying to use it unless I absolutely have to. Honestly, the only time this screen is touched is when my wife is pressing the next track button, which happens a lot when I'm trying to be in charge of music. But for everything else, I just try to avoid using this infotainment system altogether. Okay, next is the city fuel economy. Now, before somebody says in the comments, well, my Forester gets 25 mpg in the city, that's great, and I usually just have one follow-up question. Where do you live? Because I live here in Brooklyn. Here we got endless stop signs, traffic lights, construction, 5-minute traffic jams just to move 2 blocks. Those are realities of my daily commutes here. And under those conditions, my Forester usually gets around 15 mpg. And that's on a really good day. Bad days I get around 12. And that's really frustrating because it's nowhere near the 26 city mpg that it says on the window sticker. Now here's a really weird part that doesn't make any sense. Take this exact same car onto the highway and it's like somebody swapped engines. I've hit 35 mpg without even trying. Actually, I saw 39 mpg recently when I drove from Brooklyn to Long Island. It was morning traffic, summer heat, air conditioning was blasting, 2 people in the car. I got there, I looked down on the display, 39 mpg. That's impressive and frankly hard to explain, so I don't really have a highway mpg complaint. It's only a problem when I do city driving. And since 80% of my driving is city driving, it means that I'm filling up a little more than I'd like to. Okay, confession time. The next few annoyances, they're not Subaru's fault. They're mine. I should have bought a Subaru Forester Sport with optional package 24. Seriously, half of this video could probably be called things that started annoying me because I didn't buy optional package 24. Let's start with the power liftgate. When I bought this car, I thought I don't really need one. Turns out I was wrong. I'm 6'4", closing the hatch doesn't really bother me. My wife, she's not 6'4". She is much shorter than me, so she has to reach up, grab the hatch, and slam it closed. Is it the end of the world? No, but after 2 years, those little inconveniences start to add up. Then there's the sound system. The standard speakers aren't bad. Actually, no, bad isn't the right word here. They're fine. If you're listening to podcasts, you'll probably never complain. But if you actually enjoy listening to music while driving, you'll eventually start wishing you had the Harman Kardon system. Every time I listen to music, I think, yep, should have bought one with the optional packs 24. So if you're shopping for a 5th gen Subaru Forester and you want upgraded audio system, do yourself a favor, find one with optional package 24 if you go for the sport trim, or optional package 22 if you go for the wilderness trim, or optional package 32 if you go for the limited trim. As far as I know, they don't offer the Harman Kardon music on the premium trim. So yeah, basically if you have option of having a car with optional package, take it. The future you will thank you. Okay, now to the interior. I think it has two really weird problems. Now, overall, I actually think that the interior is one of the Forester's biggest strengths. It's so comfortable. The visibility is amazing. I'm a tall guy, and that's one of the biggest reasons I bought this car in the first place. I'm super comfortable here. I've talked about this plenty of times on this channel. But there are two interior quirks that still annoy me every single winter. The first one, cold feet. And no, I'm not kidding. Every winter, it's the exact same story. I start the car. 4 or 5 minutes later, the cabin is nice and warm. The windshield is clear. My hands are warm. My face is warm. Everything feels great, except for my feet. No matter what I do, I point all the airflow toward the floor. I crank up the temperature, I play with every climate setting, doesn't matter. My feet still feel cold. And my wife sitting next to me has the exact same complaint. None of us have poor circulation, so it's not bad. But yeah, if you look on the forums, it's a common owner complaint. You end up in this really weird situation where you're sweating from the waist up, but your toes still feel cold. It's kind of strange because the heater itself is actually really, really good and the seat heating is great, the cabin warms up quickly, it just never seems to send enough warm air down to the footwell section. It's not a huge problem, but after 2 New York winters, yeah, it definitely annoys me. The second thing is honestly just bad button placement. Whoever decided to put the SOS button right next to the dome light button, I have questions. The first few weeks of owning this car, I thought Subaru was playing prank on me. It would be dark outside, I reach up to turn on the dome light, miss the dome light button by about half an inch, and suddenly my car wants to call emergency services. I'm sitting there thinking, you gotta be kidding me. Eventually, you learn exactly where the buttons are, but I still don't understand why those two buttons are sitting right next to each other. Somebody had to approve that. Hopefully this was fixed on a 6th generation Subaru Forester, and if you drive one, please let me know in the comments. Okay, the next one is almost funny. I ordered the Subaru water bottle straight from the official Subaru website. Pretty nice bottle too. And you'd think a Subaru water bottle would fit inside a Subaru cup holder, right? Nope, it doesn't fit. Not in the center cup holder, not in the door. So now I have an official Subaru water bottle that doesn't fit inside my Subaru. How does that happen? Well, the cup holders themselves are fine for normal drinks, coffee cups, smaller bottles, no problem. But if you're carrying a larger insulated bottle like I do, you'll probably end up putting it on the passenger seat. Oh, and by the way, looks like Subaru has listened and they made one of the cup holders bigger on the new 6th gen Subaru Forester. It's a tiny change, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of drivers appreciate it. Okay, another annoying thing is the missing 360 camera. This one has started bothering me more and more over the last couple of years. Not because the backup camera is bad, actually, the backup camera is great. I even love that little washer thingy they have built in for it. But here's what I don't understand. Where is the 360 camera? Every time I'm parking, every time I'm squeezing between two parked cars, every time I'm doing off-roading, I catch myself thinking, a 360 camera would have been really nice to have here. And what's crazy is, this isn't some brand new futuristic technology. My family's 2015 Kia Sorento had a 360 camera. Think about that for a second. At 2015, Kia had it, but my 2024 Subaru? Nothing. And this is something Subaru has always confused me with. They never seem to go all the way when it comes to giving us a full 360 camera view. In one market, they'll give you a front-facing trail camera, in another market, they'll give you a side view camera, but they never gave the 5th gen Subaru Forester a proper 360 camera, not even in the highest trim. That's honestly disappointing, especially for a car that's supposed to encourage you to go off-road. Another thing is the blind spot monitoring system. Now, before I complain about this one, let me say something first. I specifically bought the Sport trim because it came standard with the blind spot monitoring. I love this feature. I think it's one of the best safety features you can have, especially driving in New York. It works, it's reliable. I wouldn't want another daily driver without this system. But I think Subaru missed two opportunities here. The first one is simple. Why can't I turn on audible warning sound on my blind spot monitoring system? Let's say I want to merge onto a highway. I check my mirror, I put on my turn signal, and let's say I somehow miss the orange blind spot warning light, warning me about a car in my blind spot. So why not give me an option to also enable a quick audible warning sound? I want an option as a driver to have audible warning sound when there is a car in my blind spot and I put on my turn signal. I think it would have been so useful to have this feature. The second thing is the color of the blind spot warning light. Maybe I'm the only one who gets annoyed by this, but here's what happens almost every day. If a car is in your blind spot, the warning light glows solid amber. That's perfectly fine. But the moment you put on your turn signal, sometimes there are two amber lights that start flashing on the same mirror. One is the turn signal light that flashes amber, and depending on the situation, sometimes the blind spot warning light also flashes amber as well. At a quick glance, it's easy to mistake the blind spot warning light for your normal blinker light. That can possibly create confusion, which is obviously not something you want when merging into traffic. Personally, I think that the blind spot warning light should be red. It would stand out immediately and be much harder to ignore. Let's talk about the one thing you've probably been waiting for, the CVT. If you watched this channel before, you already knew this was coming. And yes, after 2 years, it still annoys me, not because it's constantly terrible. Most of the time, it's perfectly fine. Highway driving above 35 miles an hour, honestly, no complaints. Zero. But around town, there's one thing it does that I still don't like. Here's what happens. You're driving towards a red light, you let off the gas, you just want to coast freely. Everything feels smooth. Then somewhere around 20 miles an hour, the car starts slowing itself down, kind of aggressively. You're not touching the brakes, but it almost feels like active engine braking. Then around 15 miles an hour, you feel a little shove, almost like somebody gently bumped your rear bumper. It's like a jolt forward. And the first time it happened, I actually thought something was wrong with the car. It was actually a little scary. I mean, you're ready to slow down and then you get shoved forward, which is something you don't expect. So it turns out nothing was wrong with the car or the CVT. It's simply the torque converter unlocking. Once you understand what's happening, it starts to make sense and not be scary. What I just described is also more pronounced when the car is cold. Once the transmission warms up, it usually becomes a lot smoother. Have I gotten used to it? Yeah, I guess I had to. But if Subaru called me tomorrow and said, Russ, we're replacing your CVT with a traditional automatic transmission, I'd probably say yes before they finish the sentence. Does that mean the CVT is a deal breaker? No, not at all. It just means I think Subaru could have made the driving experience a little smoother and a little bit more predictable. Okay, as I said in the beginning, this isn't one of those I regret buying my car videos. These are simply the little things that have started annoying me after living with my Forester over the last 2 years. And here's the funny part, most of these aren't huge problems. I mean, cup holder, come on. But they're kind of little annoying things that you notice after hundreds of commutes, plenty of family road trips, and 2 New York City winters. Do I wish Subaru had fixed some of these issues I mentioned? Absolutely. A better infotainment system, a proper 360 camera, and yes, I probably should have bought a Forester Sport with optional package 24. Actually, no, scratch that. I definitely should have bought one with optional package 24. But to Subaru's credit, they did fix a lot of complaints on the 6th gen Subaru Forester. Things like a bigger cup holder, 360 camera is finally available as an option. So yeah, I'm glad that they're listening and improving. But despite everything I talked about today, I still really enjoy living with my Subaru Forester. It's comfortable, it's practical, the visibility is incredible, the all-wheel drive system has been amazing, it feels safe, dependable, and every time I get behind the wheel, I still know I made the right choice. Every car has its compromises. These just happen to be the Foresters. Now, I want to hear from you guys. If you owned a Forester for a while, what started annoying you over time? And if you're thinking about buying one, which one of these would bother you the most? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.